I've been watching the events that have been playing out in our nation over the last week and a half, and obviously a lot's going on right now, and it feels like things are just off. I've been wanting to say some things, but have been hoping the dust would settle in all of this situation, but it doesn't feel like it will. So let's talk about it. Typically on Fridays, we do our regular news segment here on the channel, but this week I want to put a pause on that. A lot of what is happening right now, and over the last week and a half, it feels like things have intensified. We've seen several events come up that remind us how fragile things really are, and it feels like our nation just continues to tear at itself. Division is growing deeper, and I'm hearing from many of you about financial challenges, about the stress that you're carrying, and about the uncertainty that really seems to hang over everything. And there's no better word than I can think of other than despair. So what happens next? Where do we go from here? If you're new to this channel, my name is Chris, and on this channel we discuss emergency preparedness, aka prepping. Before we jump in this video, let me address something a little awkward. At the beginning of the year, we signed contracts with sponsors for our Friday news segments. Since that video falls in on this Friday slot, there's a sponsorship in this video as well. And I just want to be upfront with you about this because in the middle of a personal conversation that we're going to have, it may feel a bit jarring to have a sponsorship. The sponsorship slot's going to appear at this time here in the video, just so we're upfront about that. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about where we're at. My goal here is not to add to the noise or to stoke fear with everything that's happening right now. There's enough of that already out there. Instead, I want to try and take a step back and look honestly at what's happening and then talk about solutions. Every few years, I end up doing these types of videos on the channel where I have to address some type of civil unrest in our nation that looks like it's pushing us to the brink. Because honestly, preparedness is more about what's happening than just the latest headlines. It's about stepping back and saying, what does this moment that we're in mean and how do we move forward? Right now, I think people are reacting in two big ways. Some are scared and others are angry. And both of those emotions are being fed by systems that thrive on our fear and hate. And that's just how social media works. Studies have confirmed that these types of companies, social media companies, will use this as a tool, a hook, to draw you in and then keep you engaged, enraged, and they find that there's more engagement when people are enraged. And the algorithms are specifically designed to keep us hooked by showing us what's going to rile us up, what will divide us, and what will make us click. And that's engagement. And engagement, it makes these companies money. So let's move past the fear and hate in this conversation. Let's take an honest assessment of what's happening. And then, most importantly, let's find solutions. I want us to try and take a step back for a moment, disengage from the anger that's dividing us, and hopefully give you some perspective. And I've been fortunate to have some really good neighbors. We don't agree on everything, far from it, but we can still talk respectfully to one another because we know and trust each other. We can listen to each other. And I'm afraid that's sorely missing in our country right now. And if things were to go sideways, I'd have their back, and I'd like to believe they do the same for me. These are good relationships that I've had, that I've built over the last couple of years, good guys that I know very well. But again, these conversations I'm having with them, that I'm having recently, they've really reminded me that even in all this division, there are still people who are willing to listen, to share, and to seek understanding. And it doesn't seem this way when our primary engagement is through social media or whatever outlet you may be watching this information, this fire hydrant of anger and rage that's upsetting us. And yet, you can't ignore how loud the talk has gotten out there. Like you, I'm hearing people throw around just words like civil war again, and that's not something I take lightly. As I've shared before on this channel, I spent time in Afghanistan in 2003. It's a country at that time that was already post-collapse and still is. And I saw firsthand what it looks like when a society tears itself apart. It is not romantic. It is not exciting. It is devastating. And trust me when I say, it's not what any of us should want here. Historically, there's been a few instances where our nation almost started a civil war again after it ended in 1865, and yet cooler heads ultimately prevailed. And I hope we can do the same as a nation again. All right, so like I mentioned earlier in the video, I do have a sponsor in the video, and I have warned you about this earlier, so here we go. This YouTube ad-free video is sponsored by Incogni. Ever Googled your own name and been shocked at what pops up? Your address, phone number, even family connections, all laid out for strangers, scammers, or anyone with bad intentions. For those of us focused on preparedness, that's a real threat. You wouldn't leave your food storage unlocked for anyone to take, so why leave your personal data sitting out in the open? That's where our sponsor Incogni comes in. Their automated system removes your information from hundreds of data brokers, companies that quietly buy and sell your details without permission. And with their new custom removals feature under the unlimited plan, you're no longer limited to just the big brokers. You can point Incogni to almost any site exposing your data. Just copy the link, paste it into your dashboard, and their privacy experts go to work scrubbing it away. No endless forms, no wasted hours. Incogni does the heavy lifting. Think about it like securing the perimeter of your digital homestead. Just as you prepare your home supplies and backup power for emergencies, Incogni locks down your online footprint before it can be used against you. Reducing that exposure is another step in being truly prepared. Take your personal data back with Incogni. Use code PREPPING at incogni.com/prepping and get 60% off an annual plan. Visit the link in the description and comment section below. All right, so let me pick up where we just left off. What's happening right now is really bigger than politics, bigger than one election cycle, and bigger that, really than whatever's trending in the news. We're in a time of upheaval. And you may have heard of the book entitled The Fourth Turning. That's a book that I started reading a few years ago, back after reading Peter Zion's book, The End of the World is Just the Beginning. And honestly, I couldn't complete The Fourth Turning because it was just too heavy. And in light of everything that was happening at that time, it felt too real and honestly just depressing. Around that same time, I was also reading Ray Dalio's books. In his latest book, The Changing World Order, he has called these periods that we're going through right now the decline of an empire. And he really documents what it looks like in his book. Whatever name you put on it, history shows that empires, they go through these cycles, and the old way starts to crack and something new begins to form. And the cracks, well, they're all around us right now. The glue that once held us together, it's eroding. And what's left is a society that feels fragile. And that fragility that shows up is showing up in some pretty big ways right now. Our economy, how we relate to each other in our nation, and how our attention and views are being manipulated. And on the attention side, we live in a world where outrage, it's currency. If you've noticed yourself getting more irritated or cynical after scrolling through your phone, it's not in your head, it's by design, like we talked about earlier. Outrage, it actually pays. And after years of this type of programming, we've ended up living in a nation where neighbors don't really just only disagree, they despise each other. Families are divided. I could talk a lot about that, but I'll move on. Friendships are broken. Communities are fractured. And look, I'm not going to lie to you. I've seen it creep into my own life recently, and I've had to stop and pull back and push that off. Now, if the economy were strong, maybe people could weather that division. But here's the second crack. The American dream, it feels further away than ever. Homeownership stability, a sense of financial security for many, it feels out of reach. And when people believe that they have nothing to lose, that's when societies hit breaking points. That's when unrest, radicalization, and collapse, they take root. And this isn't anything new. History shows it again and again. Debt will pile up, inflation rises, politics grow bitter, and trust in institution collapses. And that's exactly where we are in this cycle right now, if you pull back and take a look. And you can see it in the numbers, but more importantly, you can feel it. And look, I know this video is heavy, but let me pause and tell you something important. If you're feeling anxious, angry, or simply tired, you're not alone. You're not crazy for noticing that something feels off, and I feel it as well. And that's why I decided to do this video, to acknowledge and give a name to this, because I think we need to address it. But the bigger danger isn't what's just happening out there, it's what it does inside of us. What do I mean by this? When people grow hopeless, bitter, or nihilistic, they throw up their hands and they just say, why bother? Nothing matters. And once a generation stops believing in a better future, what do? They start looking for ways to just burn it down. Does any of this sound familiar? If you've been listening, and I have, and paying attention to the conversations, it alarms me how common that mindset is really becoming. Up to this point in the video, I've talked about what I'm seeing, and I know many of you are noticing it as well. But here's the good news. We don't have to get swept up in it. We can choose something better. Now, before I jump into the practical steps of preparedness, let me give you what I believe is the most important step that you can take right now. If you find yourself getting angry at everything happening around you, I would encourage you to step back and ask, why? Why am I getting so angry? Is it because the media that I'm consuming is, designed to enrage me? Is that the message I'm getting from that? I've been there before. I've gone through that cycle, and I've had to pull back and ask myself, wait a minute, are they pushing me to despise people with opposing views? And I'll be honest, again, I got caught up in myself with this a while back. But once I shut that off, everything personally changed. Now look, I'm still aware of what's happening in the world, and I can find information and I can make my own decisions without being told why I should be enraged. I don't let that venom back into my life. Remember, outrage is a business model. They're playing us. And by they, I mean the media corporations primarily and other individuals that are online that make money off your rage. And even if you agree with what they're saying, ask yourself this: what if I just turned off whatever outlets you're going to for 1 month? What if I choose to look at world events objectively without that constant stream of anger? I tried that, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. And that's the model we try so hard to follow on this channel with our weekly news segments. We try to pull the drama out and give you just the information you need so you can make your own decision. All right, let's move on to discuss some practical things here. This is where preparedness comes in the whole context of this conversation, and it's what I've been talking about for years on this channel. Preparedness is not about doom and gloom. It's about hope. It's about creating stability when the world feels unstable. It's about building resilience when everything else feels fragile. Are we heading into a season of civil unrest in our nation? Maybe. It wouldn't be the first time in our history, and it probably won't be the last. Will this completely upend our nation? I'd like to believe it won't. But hope by itself is not a strategy, and that's why I take preparedness seriously, especially for times like this, amongst other reasons. So what does it look like in real life? What strategies can we practically implement right now to give ourselves margin if things turn ugly? And by the way, in the description and comment section below, I'm going to link to videos that cover all the points that I'm about to run through. So let's go through them quickly, and you can click below for more information on each of these topics if you want to do a deeper dive to learn more about them. First is food and water. You got to start with storage. Having a stock pantry and some extra water set aside is one of the simplest and smartest things you can do. And it doesn't take a crisis to make that useful. Even in a short-term disruption at the store can really make you grateful for when you planned ahead. Secondly, self-sufficiency. Storing food is good, but learning to produce food is even better. Things like gardening, raising chickens, harvesting rainwater, learning to cook and preserve, these are not just hobbies, they're life skills. The more you can provide for yourself, the less dependent you are on fragile systems. As a matter of fact, we built an entire course taking you through the process of going off-grid in suburbia. Third, power. I've shared some of my own projects with solar and battery backups, but for you it might be just a simple generator or even just a plan to keep critical devices charged. Having a way to keep the lights on, literally and figuratively, or whatever critical power devices you have, such as medical equipment, this ability to produce power, it can make a world of difference in a crisis. Fourth, let's talk about finances. I don't give investment advice on my channel, but I will say this: debt is chains. The less you carry, the freer you'll be when life gets rocky. A little emergency fund, some cash tucked away for unexpected needs, that's preparedness too. Fifth, community. When I first started building my homestead, I thought it was all about independence, but over time I've realized no one really does this alone. You need people that you can count on people who can count on you, and whether it's your church, your neighbors, or just a small circle of trusted friends, community is what holds everything together when times get tough. I'm going to link to some additional community resources below as well. Finally, have a plan. If unrest flares up, if things spiral, know what you would do, where you go, how you would protect your family. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. That way, if the day ever comes, you're not scrambling in panic. And look, I know this video is not, how should we say it, a cheerful conversation. I was planning on starting to overhaul my gardens today for fall planting, but I felt it was good to sit down and prepare this video because I think this is an important discussion to have right now. History shows that these cycles, they always come and go. The world may feel like it's ending, but it never really actually does. Life goes on, but the ones who come out stronger are the ones who stay grounded, who kept perspective, and who prepared. That's the voice I want to be right now for you. Not another voice yelling, not another voice dividing, but a voice reminding you that you're not powerless, that you're not crazy for noticing the cracks, and that they are real. There are real practical steps that you can take to make your family safer, stronger, and steadier, no matter what the headlines say. So, if you're feeling the weight of this moment, hear me clearly. I care deeply about you. I care deeply about my community. I don't want you to be swept up in the madness, the division, the hatred. I want you to have a plan, and I want you to feel some peace. And I want you to know you're not alone in this. Gang, we're going to get through this. Yes, I'm concerned about where we are as a nation, as a world, and we're clearly in a time of change. I think that's an understatement, but this isn't the first time and it's not going to be the last time, probably in our lifetimes. And as preppers, we don't stick our heads in the sand and ignore reality. Instead, we do the difficult work of ensuring our families are taken care of. You've got this, and if you have any thoughts or feedback, feel free to post those below. And as always, stay safe out there.